Hello everyone. I am Andrew Dornan, also known as the 12th Kind here on YouTube, and today is a brand new Let's Play Stellaris by Paradox Interactive. I'm currently running version Lee 2.4.1. This was released yesterday, October the 11th, 2019. Really late yesterday, early today, depending on how you look at it. This Let's Play is going to be a little bit different. Normally I go through the game once, maybe do some bonus episodes, but for this Let's Play we were actually doing two runs. The first run we will be doing, we will be running the United Nations of Earth, and for our second run we will actually be making a custom empire. I think this run might go on for quite a few episodes. I do plan on pre-recording a good chunk of these episodes just because it's midterm season at college, and so I wanted to get a little bit ahead of recordings, but you can always suggest ideas for our custom empire using the Google form linked below. So I have a bunch of notes here of, how I want to set up the game, what mechanics I want to go over, and so forth. There are plenty of different options that you can choose. I am running a few different DLC packs, and I will make sure to mention them when they come around. There's DLC that adds a lot more humanoids. There's one for robots. There's one for leviathans, which are these big space dragons, and a few other mods that not mods, but DLC packs that I'm currently running. And I'll have a list of all the DLC that I will be using down in the description below, and there might come a time where I get some more DLC just to kind of show that off as well. So here we have the United Nations of Earth. The homeworld is, well, Earth, a continental world. It is a representative democracy. There are different kinds of governments you can choose. The Commonwealth of Man is a dictatorship. The Vor technocracy is a dictatorship. The Teprid homolog, or really any machine race, is going to be a Gestalt consciousness or a machine intelligence race. You can also have organics be a Gestalt consciousness. That would be a hive mind. I apologize for my dog in the background. The backyard neighbors are getting the back neighbors are getting the fence replaced that separates our two yards, so my dog has to stay inside. But unfortunately, she really likes people, so she really wants to be out there, but we can't let her out there. So some other things, back to the game. We have some ethics, beacon of liberty, and idealistic foundation. These give little bonuses like monthly unity increases, happiness. Happiness is something, if you've played Civilization, you kind of already know, but this works a little bit differently. We're xenophile, which means we cannot enslave or displace or refuse refugees, and we get increased opinion from other species. We are fanatic egalitarian, they're quote unquote moderate government traits, and then there is also fanatic traits, and they have different bonuses. Some are a little more extreme than others, and if you choose a fanatic trait, then you can only have one moderate trait, or you can have up to 3 moderate traits. Here we have our race, which is humans, because we're the United Nations of Earth. We're adaptive, which means, a plus 10% to habitability. We'll get to that when the time comes. Nomadic, pop growth from immigration, resettlement costs, and we are also wasteful. Pop consumer goods upkeep is more, which sounds about right for us here on Earth. This is our ship design, which is, I believe it's considered the mammalian ship appearance. Oh, humanoid. Yeah, this is mammalian, this is humanoid. So we have like these sleek ships. The myriad human nations that constitute their interstellar government are desperate yet united in purpose. These bipedal mammalians have developed a society that encourages and even thrives on individual freedoms and cultural differences. As a result, humans tend to integrate well with alien populations. There's a bit more, but let's go ahead and jump right into it. You can also change your designs for your I guess you would call it like your emblem, your symbol, your logo. I do have notes as to how I want this set up. So we're gonna have a 600 star, which is a medium-sized map, 2 spiral arms, which is the shape. AI empires, we are gonna keep the same. Advanced AI starts, we're gonna have at 1. Fallen empires will be 1. Marauder empires we're turning off just because I kind of recommend having them off. They're a bit of a wild card when it comes to the game. It's I'll describe later once we actually get into the game. All the different costs, habitable worlds, primitive civilizations, those are all at 1. Crisis strength, I recommend you keep it at the default of 1, or you can always like turn it down. You can turn it off completely, or you can get it to where it's like only 0.25. Mid-game start, there's early game, mid-game, and end-game. We're going to have the mid-game be about 24-25, and then the end-game year is going to be about 3,000. That's what I personally recommend. If you have the mid-game earlier, you're going to have to rush to be ready for the mid-game, because it's really meant for more advanced civilizations that can really stand toe-to-toe with it. And same for the end game year, and that's your big crisis, and there's usually 2. Victory year I have turned off. Difficulty we're going to keep on Ensign, just because I'm showing off the game. Scaling difficulty is going to be off. AI aggressiveness is going to be normal. Empire placement is going to be random. Advanced neighbors is going to be off. Hyperlane density, abandoned gateways, and wormhole pairs are all going to be normal. Guaranteed habitable worlds is going to be on 2. There's a thing called Caravaners. Basically space-based traders who send out fleets across the galaxy to offer you trade deals, which is great. And then Iron Man mode basically means you can't save or load during your game. You will have to wait for an autosave. And this game, depending on how good your computer is, will just save. Like when it autosaves, it'll happen instantly. So if this is your first time playing, I recommend turning that off, just so that way you can like save and then like reload to see the different outcomes of some events that will happen. Without further ado, let's get started. We are starting a new game. Loading all the graphics. So let's see. Let's check my notes. Yeah, game setup. Here we go. And this is the start. United Nations of Earth, government, representative democracy. We've discussed all of this. Traits, continental preference, which means we get bonuses to a lot of worlds that are like pretty similar to the terrain of Earth. So if there's another continental planet, then that's super great. And the more it gets to more of your like your tundras and your deserts and your savannas, then it's not as big of a bonus, but it's still there. Much has happened since the modern humans first emerged in Africa some 200,000 years ago. Our kind spread rapidly across most of the globe, and soon the first civilizations took form. Scientific progress has been swift, though not without cost. Wars claimed millions of lives, and even before the atom was tamed, and the turmoil of the 21st century saw the mandate of the United Nations gradually expanded in an effort to create stability. By the 22nd century, I'm sorry, guys. I have a hard time reading this. The text's a little slow, or a little small for me, even though I've got glasses on and I'm trying not to just like shove my face into my microphone. Though some still resent the power wielded by the UN, as evidenced during the Militarian police action of '88. Few can deny the technological breakthroughs that come out of its sponsored research programs. With the recent completion of the first true starships, mankind is about to embark on a new era of space exploration begin. Okay, so bunch of words. So let's start things slow. You can use WASD to move. There's a lot of stuff going on. So this is your system map. This is what you do. This is what you see when you're viewing a star system. We're gonna go from the left to the right. So the top left, you have your government's icon. You click this to bring up your government screen. This shows you who your current ruler is. You can hover over them to see their species, gender, skill level, age, and traits. You can also view the you can view the traits down here: champion of the people and expansionist. Those give you bonuses. So like expansionist means we can build our outposts cheaper, and our starbase influence cost is also cheaper, and we'll get into that in just a minute. Here you can see your governing ethics and your civics. I got that backwards. I apologize. Your authority and the next election. You can also reform your government if you have 250 influence, which we'll get into in a minute. Modifiers, we have no temporary modifiers. Cohesion is it's cohesion. It's a mix of a lot of different factors. And one of the big things that will take away from your cohesion right now is how many external hyperlanes are in your empire. So it's basically like how well controlled your little slice of the galaxy is. Population, right now we only have humans. 24 population across one world. 24 pops is kind of a vague term. The devs have said that 24 pops can mean 24,000, 24 million, 24 billion, or any sort of number. It's all up to you. So pop effects, we have an increase of happiness, no current effect on ethics, attraction, and our pop growth speed is about the same. And then our advisor, there is some voice acting in the game in the form of advisors. So right now our current advisor voice is the diplomat.
Nothing is impossible to those who would try.
There's a lot of different ones. There's the soldier, the technocrat, hive mind, machine intelligence. In fact,
we are one. We are all. Our unity cannot be divided.
I use a variant of the hive mind, one of the generic hive mind phrases for my streams.
Nothing is impossible.
There we go. We're gonna just knock that out. So that's the government. That's all in the government. Now, if we go over here, we hover our mouse over these icons, and it brings out this menu. We have contacts, which is just a quick way to view all of the different powers in your empire or in the galaxy. So we have our empire, and then there are others which are like your artist guilds, your musician guilds, stuff like that. Primitives are those who haven't achieved space flight. I don't know. They're called primitives, but they're not really like cavemen. Like, you can find worlds that are potentially in the Stone Age. But it's kind of funny that they're called primitives. Fallen empires and just general like non-player empires. Everything's called an empire, even though technically they're not empires. Situation log. If you are running a democracy or something where the leaders have their own special objectives, they'll pop up in here, as well as anything else. So, or like any other situations that you come across. So this one, minor mandate, President Dolores was elected on a platform of increasing mineral output by building mining stations in orbit around suitable planetoids. Your reward is 6 months worth of Unity to a max of, I want to say 1,000. Mining stations built 0 out of 4. So this is something to just kind of keep track of. We currently don't have any. Oh, we could build a mining station around Mars right now. But we'll get to that in a minute. Anomalies, we haven't found any anomalies yet because we just started. Victory, this will show how close people are to victory, how the different empires are close to victory depending on what's going on. So United Nations of Earth is apparently number 4, rank 4, score 169. You get points for economic strength, technology level, number of systems, number of colonies, number of populations, subject empires, federation, crisis ships killed, and relics collected. Let's see, up next is the market. Here, when you start getting into things with you're running out of space for certain materials, or you need more of one material, then you go into the market. You cannot buy or sell energy credits, but you can buy or sell various goods. So you can sell, right now we can buy or sell minerals, food, consumer goods, and alloys. Also, by hovering over one of these, you can see the maximum amount of units of that type that you can have. So right now we are capped out at 15,000 for all of these. Market fee 30%. It can go as low as 5% or get even higher. That basically determines how much extra you will have to buy for something and how much less you can sell that something for. You can do automatic monthly trades, which is great if you are someone like me who built a lot of mining stations and you have a lot of excess minerals, that you can set up automatic trades to sell your minerals, and you can have the minimum sell price set by yourself, or you can just let the market decide, and you can change the amount. Unfortunately, you cannot click in here and edit this. You have to click the plus or minus, which means if you want to sell 100 minerals per month, then you're gonna have to sit here and click on that several times, about 90 times if you want to go for 100. Planets and sectors are I don't want to say they're a joke in Stellaris, but they kind of are. Basically, select sectors with every major update get changed. So I'm not really going to go over sectors, because by the time this comes out, which this should be coming out on the 25th of October, sectors might get changed. It might. So I'm not gonna touch sectors. I will rename them, which is something that you can do. So if we go here, go on sector settings, you can change their focus, or you can rename the sector. So we, instead of calling it the Earth sector, we call it the core worlds. And if you have names for planets or space stations or fleets, let me know in the comments down below, and I will choose the one that I like the most, and that will become the name for like that space station or that fleet or that planet. Expansion planner. So right now there's the only quote-unquote habitable planet is Mars, but we can't actually inhabit it because it's not colonizable. And the reason why is because it's technically a barren world, and you would need to terraform it. Unfortunately, we do not have terraforming technology. So Mars is just gonna sit there and just taunt us for thousands of years. If we go into policies, these are all your different policies. Unrestricted wars, orbital bombardment. For most empires, unless you are a determined exterminator, you cannot do Armageddon, which is the highest level of orbital bombardment. The most you can do is indiscriminate. Some empires will not like that you do indiscriminate bombardment. Some might not like that you do selective. Some will really not like if you do Armageddon. Resettlement. So basically whether or not we are allowed to forcibly relocate populations between planets. When we start getting other planets, I'll set that to allowed, just because then we get into an issue where like one planet has too many populations and one doesn't have enough, so we want to like start doing like a bit of moving around. Initial border status is open. First contact protocol peaceful. We cannot set it to aggressive because we need to be militaristic or xenophobic or a Gestalt consciousness. Food policy, economic policy, and trade policy, basically how you want your economy to kind of regulate itself. For right now, we're going to keep this all the same. Robotic workers are allowed, although I don't think we have the means to create robotic workers at the current moment. Population controls, slavery, and purge are all prohibited. We cannot... Yeah, in order to do displacement or allowed, we cannot be egalitarian or xenophilic. Same with slavery. Let's see, what else have I not gone over? There's a lot to go over, bear with me. So, here we have edicts. Edicts are a lot of fun and can help you out in a pinch. We only have these edicts right now, but we get more as we explore the galaxy and gain more research. We will eventually unlock more edicts. Right now we have encourage political thought, which lasts 11 years. Ethics shift chance goes up by 50%. Basically, how willing people are going to do, or how willing people are going to accept your edicts. Sometimes you might select an edict that a political faction in your own empire, which we will get to when that happens, may not like that you encourage political thought, or that you want to map the stars, or that you want to do volatile land clearance. All of these have their different perks, and there's actually everything from volatile land clearance down. We actually, even though we see that we can do these, we actually can't act them because we don't have the required materials, and we actually haven't discovered these materials in the galaxy yet, which is kind of interesting. Traditions and relics, we haven't found either. So if we we haven't found any relics. For traditions, these are kind of like they're kind of the same as in Civilization 5, which is by a completely different developer, but I'm just trying to like give some context to some of these. So we have expansion, domination, prosperity, harmony, discovery, diplomacy, and supremacy. These actually change a bit depending on what kind of species you're running or what kind of government you're running, which is really interesting. These are ascension perks, which you get to choose an ascension perk. I cannot talk today, I'm sorry. The season's changed, and even though I'm on allergy meds, it's just hard. It's a hard knock life for those with allergies. So let's say we go to Discovery. We can go all the way down Faith of Science, and when we get all of these, then it will unlock an Ascension perk, which gives us a pretty nice bonus. Then we have Ship Designer, which we can't really do much of yet because we don't really have that many different technologies to put in. Right now we have a Corvette class, which right now is our largest spaceship. Here you can design what kind of ship you want. So this is like an interceptor, or you could change it to be a missile boat or a picket ship. Also change what kind of reactor it is, what kind of hyperdrive, chemical thrusters, radar system, combat computer, and more. You can also edit your defense platforms. These become really helpful when you are working on entrenching yourself. Let's say you pissed off a nation and you need to defend your borders, but you don't want to put ships there. Space stations and defense platforms are the way to go. Fleet Manager. I personally don't use this too terribly often, but it is a good way to see all of your fleets in one menu, create a new fleet, have them all being reinforced, and all that fun stuff. So we can go here and actually assign an admiral to our first fleet. All admirals have this little insignia. Basically, the leader that you're recruiting will have a little insignia which designates, admiral, scientist, governor, or general. Their age, like how old they are, skill, what skill level they're at. All of these are at level 1 right now. Your traits, fleet logician. So this person, their ship upkeep is down by 10%, which is nice. Resilient, this admiral can live an extra 25 years, which is also nice. And then this one is trickster. You can, when you're engaged in combat, which we will hopefully not get into for a long time, there's a thing that you can do where you can do an emergency FTL, which is a retreat button in the combat window, and you do that. There's a risk that your ships will get damaged from an emergency FTL jump. This lowers the chance of that happening, and additionally, combat disengagement is if your ship is low on health, there's a chance that it will just leave the battle on its own, preventing its destruction, which is really nice. Typically, the faster the ship is, the higher its chance to disengage. I can't speak today. I apologize. But we don't have the money to recruit any admirals right now, so we'll just leave that as is. Technology brings up this menu. This is basically your research menu. The one thing that I don't like about the researched technology is that it doesn't appear as a tree. It just appears as a list of things that you've researched, and same goes for here. So let's go ahead and get started. While we're here, I'm going to select some research. Research speed will be good for the long run. I want to get the hydroponics farm, the hydroponics farming, which gives us hydroponic farms for the planets, and hydroponics bay for star bases. And then for this research, we're going to choose mining station output. Now, each of these scientists have a specific field. So this researcher is concerned about physics, and that's physics and some AI stuff. So basically, it's more of your sci-fi sciences. Society is stuff like farming, things that affect society, and then engineering is your stuff like it's sometimes weapons. It's mostly your missiles, your mass drivers, various building techs, all that fun stuff. And you can actually see all of the past research that was done to get to you to this point. They're all marked as starting tech. Excuse me. Gosh darn. I do apologize. All research items have their own cost. And there's so much research that's generated. Physics, you have 17 points in physics, 17 society, and 17 in engineering. That can change based on how many research stations you've built, and also anything additional modifiers that you can actually research within these specific departments. Next, factions. We don't have any political factions right now, although I do believe that once I hit pause and we go through probably 20, 30 years, there will be factions that are popping up. Claims. We currently don't have any claims. Also, clicking that menu boots you into the galaxy view. Here you can view the entire galaxy and see just how, depending on how good your sensors are, you can kind of get an idea as to the hyperlanes that are near your borders and where they lead to. We don't have any claims to make because we haven't met any other empires. Closing that window just kind of leaves you here. Species, just the different species that you have that you know of in the galaxy. So right now we only know of humans. And then finally, leaders. This is your leader pool. You can see all of the ones that are that you've hired, that are, they're busy doing something, or they've been recruited but you haven't assigned them to anything yet. Here you can have the navigation bar be locked or unlocked. If you have it on unlocked, then it can look like this, or you can lock it. There we go. You can lock it so it's just looks like this the entire time. And I'm going to leave it unlocked. Over here at the top, because we're going left to right, I remember that. You have basically all of the things that we saw in the market, except they're up here so you can see them at a glance. We have energy credits, which is your money or your gold if you're coming from Civilization 5. Minerals is your raw minerals that are used for constructing buildings and districts, and also there are some buildings that require minerals to operate. Food is required to keep your populations alive and happy. Consumer goods is like an extra little thing that it also contributes to happiness. The lower your happiness on a planet or in your government, the more likely you are to have rebellions. Alloys are basically an advanced mineral. You get them from very rare planets and or planetoids and asteroids that have alloy deposits in them, or you can construct buildings on your planet that produce alloys for the cost of minerals. Influence is just something that you gain naturally over time. You can gain more influence from rivalries with other nations, or from events, or you can even spend your influence on various diplomatic options, or claiming territory, or even building star outposts and claiming territory that way. There's two ways to claim territory. You can either claim it with the starbase, or say that you claim it with the claims menu. Here we have unity. Unity is something produced from population and also jobs. This can be increased over time naturally. You can up how much unity is made. You can increase your unity through certain events. Research, we went over that when we went over the technology menu. This is like all of your other materials, your volatile moles, exotic gases, rare crystals, living metals, zero, dark matter, and nanites. That's all Some of this you can get now, like the first 3 you can get now. The rest are more mid to late game. Then we have Empire Sprawl, which is how big your empire is. It includes things like districts on a planet, how many star systems you own, how many colonies you have, and then you have your administrative capacity. It's really hard to up your administrative capacity, and it's something to look at constantly if you are looking to play tall versus wide. There are 2 ways to play when it comes to expanding your empire, and I will go over those in a minute. But all of those things culminate to your Empire Sprawl, and if you exceed your capacity, then things start getting much more expensive, much more quickly. Costs can go up by 100% or 1,000%. Empire systems, we own 1 star system and have 1 colonized system, which you can see here. And then the total population of your empire. Then we have starbase capacity. Right now we can have a total of 3 star bases, which are different from outposts. Outposts don't count towards your starbase capacity. They only count towards Empire Sprawl because you use them to claim that territory as your own, and it becomes part of your borders. And then also naval capacity is how many ships that you can have. Right now we can have a maximum of 20. And that's your base size, and there's a lot of technologies that you can research that give you more. We're not done. Going over to the right, we have I guess you could call it your calendar. Right now it's paused. If I hit spacebar, or I click this button right here, we can start taking away. It goes, right now it's about a day for every few seconds, and then you can speed that up with hitting plus or minus up here. So I can go all the way up to the fastest, or I can even go down to slowest, and I can also hit space to pause. Also, there is a music player, so you can import your own music through mods, or you can just have this play all the time, and it's currently set to shuffle. Here we have our outliner. Basically tells us our sectors, core worlds, or the core worlds is what we named it. So your sectors, the planets in those sectors, shipyards and star bases, which will be listed differently. A shipyard is basically a star base that has a shipyard in it, so it gets automatically called a shipyard. Your military fleets and your civilian ships. Your civilian ships are your construction ships, your science ships, your colony ships. Down here at the bottom right, we have various icons down here. This first one on the left is sectors map mode. You click that to see what kind of like how big a certain sector is, to kind of get an idea as to like where a sector ends and where another one begins. Here we have hyperlanes map mode. You can turn that off to just see just the stars, or turn it on to get an idea as to where people might be coming from. Trade routes. We don't really have any trade routes open, so that's not really useful to us right now. Empire map mode. There's union map modes. You can turn that off. Basically, unions, stuff like federations. If someone is a protector of someone else or is a subject, then you can use the map mode to more easily identify that. Diplomatic map mode just shows diplomatic relations to each other, so you'll see things like they've got closed borders, or they're in a federation with, stuff like that. Opinion map mode is the opinion of that empire, which if we see another empire soon, we can actually see what that looks like on the diplomacy screen. AI attitude, which is basically like how aggressive that AI might be towards you. They could be, just dismissive of you, like, we're not going to bother you, or very, very aggressive towards you. And then finally, there's neighbor map mode, which can show you who all is your neighbor. We have at the bottom, this little checkbox is details map mode. So if there are any resources that you have not claimed with a mining station or a research station, they will show up here, and when the appropriate station has been built, they will disappear. But if you want to see, how much, trade value this that the Sol system is producing, you can click that, and you can see right there it produces a trade value of 12. Here we have the go-to menu, which is basically, or not really a menu, but you can quickly navigate the camera to our homeworld. So if we go all the way over here, and we're like, oh, I don't know where I am, you can click go to, brings you back to Sol, and then you can press this button down here, or M or E on the keyboard, M or E on the keyboard, and it brings you into the galaxy map. And then there is a search button where you can search for any known star system. So I want to search for the Sol system, and there it is. Tells you your intel level. It's an Empire homeworld, lies within the United Nations of space with a Class G star, and then you can close that. And then also there's some additional menus from more. There is multiplayer chat, which we don't have in single player, and then also help. This opens up a database. So that could be very helpful for you if you're playing and you need to look up something. You can pull up the database there. And then this last one is your main menu. You can access save game, load game settings, exit to menu, exit to desktop, resume, or view privacy policy. You can press escape to bring that up and close it. Here there's a little thing that says pause. That goes away when it's not paused. And also you can hit close galaxy map to bring you into the system window. And then finally at the bottom left we have these different icons here, which basically will bring up various things that are occurring right now. These get little progress bars, so if a science vessel is researching something, then it'll show up as a little progress bar down there, so you can see that at a quick glance without having to pull them up. And then also the construction ship. These get more lists, you can select from them when you have more fleets or more planets or more science ships. I've been talking nonstop for 42 minutes, and we haven't even left our homeworld. So, with that said, we still have some more things to go over. So right now, we have a military fleet which has no leader. You need a leader in a fleet or in a science ship in order for it to be usable. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to set this to the fastest to just kind of build up some raw materials and also some money so we can hire our first leader, just because, it would be nice to have the first fleet with an admiral. While that's going on, we can take our science ship, which we can select just by clicking that or by clicking over here, and this is how you select the different things from here. Let's say we want to, you may be curious if you can queue up a bunch of orders at once, and you can. Just hold shift, right click on the star system that you want to explore or survey, and left click on survey, and then just keep doing that like so. I recommend that you queue up orders while the game is paused, just because it makes life a little bit easier, or at least it does for me. There is a max of how many orders that you can queue up like this. So it's I think it's probably a just a hard limit on how many orders you can queue up, because some planets could have, or some star systems could have, a lot of planets to research or to survey. So right now he's got a max of 10 orders, but I do believe that can be increased over time. I remember one run I had a research vessel that had a max of 99 orders at any given time, just because I kept queuing up orders for them. Let's see. So we're at 259 energy credits, which is a perfect opportunity to hire our first leader. I'm going to go for Admiral Kumar because they come with the ship upkeep, which bonus. So that means they are a little cheaper to maintain their ships, which is a really nice early game thing. Next, let's go into our Empire capital. This is this is Earth. You can click on the planets as they show up here to quickly access here.
Red alert. Spaceport under fire.
Okay, so a lot of things just happened at once. Let's back up a little bit. So I'm going to talk about this, and then we're going to talk about this, and then we're going to talk about this. So first things first. I've never seen this event before, but let's go on. So this one here, this is our planet menu. This right here just kind of gives you an idea as to what it looks like. So we're a continental world with these really nice looking buildings. You can see the governor, what kind of traits they have. In this case, they have an architectural interest. So building costs and district costs are lowered, and planetary build speed is increased, which is really nice. Also, their skill level. All leaders have skill levels. You can increase their maximum skill level through technological research. Stability. This is stuff like your happiness. Do you have enough amenities? Do you have enough consumer goods? What is the crime rate like? Currently, we're at 67% stability, which is pretty good for your early game. Crime is currently at 0%. We've got there's 15 crime, 15 points in the crime, but our governor's skill reduces that by 3, so then it becomes 12. And then from population jobs, so like your enforcers, your police officers, stuff like that, then it goes down even further. Which is really handy. Housing, that plays into things like you can build like a housing building, or you can build a city district, which provides +5 housing. Amenities, and just stuff like arts, culture, things like that. That plays into your happiness. Unemployment right now is 0 because we are in the process of building more jobs than there are people in the planet. And this is something that you want to pay attention to and start working with, which is why I like forced resettlement, because if there are unemployed persons on one planet, you can relocate them to another planet that needs more people. And then also available jobs is currently at 0, but we're going to increase that shortly. Here we have our buildings. This UI has changed over the years. Here you have your buildings, and you can see how many population, how many pops are needed in order to unlock the next slot. So this one we need 25 population points in order to unlock that slot. And if we click on this and bring this over, you can see what kind of buildings that you can make, and at a glance how much they take. There's some universal icons. All of these are universal icons for the game. One of the things you'll see all the time when building something is this little clock, and then a numerical value that is saying how many days it will take to build that. In this case, it will take 328 days to build the alloy foundries, and it will cost 360 minerals. Then you have stuff like civilian industries, which produce consumer goods. All of these have very different upkeep costs. Some require energy credits to upkeep. Some might require consumer goods to upkeep. It all just depends. There are some buildings that are restricted to just robots, which are stuff like the bioreactors, which is one of the main reasons why you would have farms if you were running a purely robotic species or a purely robotic empire. Over here we have districts, which is another thing that's changed It got one major overhaul, and then over time, it's just been like minor tweaks, just some quality of life changes. This up here tells you how many districts you have left available. In this case, it's 4, and also there are 3 districts that have blockers on them. So those are things like jungles or battlefield debris or hostile wildlife or icebergs or what have you, and that gives you like an additional 3 districts on top of that. So I think one of the things I would like to go in on is some mining districts. So I would like to request one of those, and unfortunately they cost a lot of resources, and over time you can actually reduce how many resources they cost through certain technologies, also from traits as well. Here you can see basically how much the planet produces and uses up. In this case, it's just all in the green, but if you had a very heavy, a world that was nothing but alloyed foundries, which we have one of, and a lot of mining districts and nothing else, then it might be having to get food from other planets. So it's like in a food deficit or in an energy credit deficit, things like that. Also, there's planetary features, which you can see all of the available the districts that like are available, and then also the different blockers. So we have the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, the Sprawling Stums, and Industrial Wasteland. If we go into real quick, this is trade value. This is more of a thing for organic pops. From my experience, robotic populations don't really do trade, which is kind of interesting. Here you can see your sector. We can't delete this sector because it's the one that's automatically generated because of our homeworld. Here you get a quick button to planets and sectors. Colony designation picked automatically, and some other things. So you can turn automation on or off. Here you can view your population. You can see growing. Assembling is for your robotic workers, and declining is for populations that are starving or that you're actively purging. Here you can also see like a little diagram of, or a pie chart of, how many species you have on your planet and how much of the total population is made up of all of that. Here you can see your it's a population approval rating. I sometimes call it happiness. This basically is things that can improve it or things that can decrease it over time. Here you have 3 classes of jobs. You have rulers, specialists, and workers. I mainly focus on just regular workers because they produce your raw materials, your stuff like energy credits, minerals, food, anemones, and trade value. You can also see what resources they take in order to produce that. For specialists, for example, in order to produce any of these through special buildings, you would need minerals or consumer goods. And then rulers don't need to take in anything, but they will produce unity and amenities. Here we have armies, which you could assign a general to. Right now we just have the planetary guard. You can recruit assault armies, which is what you would need to invade planets, which is something we won't get into at this moment. There is a corporate tab, but we can't access that because I don't have the Megacorp DLC. Alright, so here we have an anomaly. When an anomaly is discovered, this window will pop up, and also a little node will pop down here that says anomaly. The name of the ship has found an anomaly on a planetary body in a star system. So here it says, who's currently there, who discovered it. In this case, it's this guy. It also tells you current skill level and their like what they're doing. Difficulty and research time. So if something is routine, it's the same level as the scientists. Or it could be like if it's like something along the lines of like it's nothing or something like that. I don't exactly remember off the top of my head. Then it's something that is below their level and they'll be able to do easily. Research time is how long it'll take. In this case, it's 120. It would probably take 120 days, depending on the routine and the level of your scientist and any modifiers they might have. And here we have a description of what the anomaly might be, or the first contact with the anomaly. So it says right here, ship sensors are picking up an unexplained pattern of interference in the Procyon system. You can change the scientist. You can change the scientist responsible for the anomaly. You can just tell the researcher to leave it be for now, or you can tell it to go ahead and research the anomaly, and it basically just adds another item into their queue. They'll research the anomaly in like their own little like side queue, and then once that's done, then they will go back to what they were doing. So let's go ahead and have them research it, because I like researching anomalies when I can, and that's really like a good idea that you should do. And here we have something that I've never seen before. The Red Prophets. Centuries ago, a group of radical priests and their devoted followers on Earth broke away from the established religions to form their own church. These extremists called themselves the Red Prophets and have been responsible for many atrocities and acts of terror over the years. Although they have kept a low profile in modern times, they recently learned that many of their agents have infiltrated our military. These renegades have secretly been diverting resources to the construction of a small fleet of starships at a hidden facility on Earth. When their treachery was revealed, the cultists blasted into orbit on their ships and fled to Venus. They must be stopped. Begins the Red Prophets event chain.
Situation log has been updated.
So with that, we got a situation log that has been updated. So up here, whenever a hostile fleet is present within your borders or near your borders, this will pop up. The hostile fleets will appear as red, and the 2 stars will show like their relative strength. This, honestly, I've never really paid attention to the stars. I feel like it's pretty arbitrary. What you really want to look at is your military power for your fleets and your shipyards and your star bases. This construction ship has a red icon with an arrow. It means it is going to try to evade the hostiles. And we have a new situation log, which if we go to the situation log, we have the Red Prophets event chain. And you can track these on map, which we don't need to because they're in our own system. Members of an extreme cult calling themselves the Red Prophets are seeking to undermine our government and subvert the populace to their twist of a religion. After spending centuries quietly building up their strength on Earth, their leaders have now fled into space to continue their crusade against us. Oh boy. So we can zoom down on here, and you can see there's Venus, and there's their fleet. They're only a fleet of 112, but our fleet is 110. There we go. You can use left mouse button, click and drag to select multiple ships at once. I don't want to select the construction ship. I want to select our first fleet. We are backed up by a space station which has its own defense guns and will assist us in destroying this fleet. So you can right click with your military fleet selected and click on a target, and I'm going to set us down to normal speed. And here, when any of your units are in combat, this will pop up and a siren will play. At least one of our fleets is in combat. if you are in the system and you have one of the fleets that are in combat selected, this menu will appear. This shows you, your general, if you're going to win or not, which is based entirely on hull points. This is the right side will always be the enemy fleet. The left side will be your fleet. You'll see your ships and their ships. They have different circles around there and the little insignia in the middle that determines the blue outermost circle is your shields, then the middle one is your armor, and then the circle in the very center is your hull points. At the very bottom you have damage output, which is damage to hull, damage to armor, and damage to shields, and this is their damage output, and then also their hit ratio. They currently have a hit ratio of 88%. You've got a average hit ratio of 50%, so you have like a 50-50 shot of hitting your targets, and this is all done automatically and through dice rolls and fixed numbers. So we'll let them fight. And currently the station is also trying to defend against the ships, and it looks like it's doing a pretty good job. We haven't lost a ship yet. One ship lost its shields though. They're down to one more ship, and it should be going down any minute now. There we go. So here we go. Cultist ship disabled. There's another window. It disappeared. We can get that window back. Don't worry. Our Valiant Space Forces have skillfully disabled a ship in the Cultist Armada. It is mostly intact, and we are picking up faint life signs from inside its hull. Once we have eliminated all threats in the immediate vicinity, we should conduct a boarding operation to secure any survivors. They may be able to tell us more about the ultimate motives of the Red Prophets. Prepare the breaching charges, and this issues a special project board the cultist ship.
Has been updated.
So real quick before we go over that, you can see that now there is a little icon, which is an eye and a crosshairs, that designates a special project. Here you can see in the fleet menu, you can see how many shields they have, what their armor is looking like, and what their hull is looking like. And you can press this button right here to send the fleet to go park next to a shipyard and get repaired. That is no longer necessary, and now we have fleet combat. The second you click out, a click away from this, it goes down. So this tells you fleet combat in a star system on a day, and it shows you your fleet and their fleet. They lost only one of their 3 ships. So we didn't lose any. Overall damage output, we were 99% efficient in damage to their hull, armor, and shields. Our damage to hull was 105% efficient. Armor was 73 efficient, and shields is 149 efficient. We didn't have point defense guns, so there was nothing there. Our average hit ratio for the entire battle was about 63%, and our evasion was 13%. And then this is their statistics for that. And now let's just go. So now we have a ship here. That is what we will be boarding next. So now we need to take our military ship and go and take care of this project. So if you have the appropriate vessel selected, you can right click on an item that says or right click on a special research project icon and click research project, and they will then move into position, which we will see shortly. Okay, yeah, while they work on that, we will go and open traditions. This is going to be a long episode. All of these episodes are going to be long because it's an RTS, but hopefully they won't be as long as this one, just because there's a lot of explaining of all of the mechanics happening. So here, our Unity has been filled up. We needed 300 Unity points, and we got that. So now it's time to select a research option or a tradition. So let's see. I would like to prosperity, domination, expansion. I would like to do prosperity. By adopting prosperity, you get some effects already. So by selecting prosperity, we get mining station output increasing by 10%, and then once we are done, we will get an additional, like once we've adopted all of these traits, then we will have an additional effect added onto that. So really this game is about building a bunch of effects on top of each other to get the best results. Yes, we want to do that, and then it'll take 23 months or slightly less than 2 years to get to our next Unity goal, I guess you could say. Alright, so let's go back and let's speed this along. So, okay, they are almost done with that.
The special project has concluded.
There we go. I have it set to not pause when these pop-ups occur. You can set it to where they do pause. Okay, so boarding action. Through those survivors offered stiff resistance, our boarding party was able to secure several prisoners from the disabled cultist starship. Includes several flag officers and high-ranking officials within our government. Mass arrests are being made on Earth, and all assets belonging to this cult have been seized. However, several starships they built in secret remain unaccounted for, and the upper echelons of the cult's leadership have vanished. Oh boy, that's kind of crazy. But we must pursue these terrorists, and here you can actually... we have detected ion trails from fleeing cultist ships. The vicinity of the star system should be, recollected. So, have that. And now if we go out here, it should be... Oh, what? Zonified science. The UNS Noble crew has succeeded in isolating a signal embedded within the unusual patterns of interference. May have composed the song remains unknown. Interesting. So that gave us society research points and physics research points. Alright, do we need... I think we might need the military ship in order to do that special project. I think either that or a research vessel. I'm not entirely sure. But this has been a long episode of just explaining mechanics. And I apologize it was so explanation heavy, but isn't that the case for a lot of first episodes? Also, it looks like we've got a thing down there, which we can't send a military fleet to because the system is unknown and it hasn't been explored yet. And it looks like that's where they've gone over there. Wow, those cultists got really far. Alright, well, that is going to be it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Oh, I hope I covered everything. There will be more stuff that we cover in due time. We just haven't encountered them in-game yet. And then our next thing, the next few episodes are just going to be completing this run. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure you check out the channel for more content and also the website for more content. And also make sure you check out the Google form in the description below to help determine what our custom empire will be for the second run of Stellaris. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time for another episode of Let's Play Stellaris. Bye-bye.